Hello, everyone. Welcome to the fifth meeting of the Government Transition Advisory Committee's Voter and Candidate Education and Outreach Subcommittee. Today is Monday, March 4th, and we'll be here from 11:30 till 1. My name is Julia Meyer. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the Engagement and Community Participation Manager for the transition. Our co-chairs, Bill and Jane, will facilitate today's meeting. Next slide, please. Before we get started, I just want to go over some meeting logistics. This meeting is being live streamed on YouTube. A copy of the meeting recording will be posted on the transition website under past meetings and events. For today's meeting, we have closed captioning available. To access closed captioning, please click on the CC button on the bottom of your screen. For committee members, please take this moment to change your chat settings to everyone so that folks in attendance can see the chat. And please remember that the chat is part of the public meeting record. For community members listening in, we have the Zoom Q&A feature available. You can submit questions or comments through the Q&A feature. We may not answer all the questions live during the meeting, but we do read them and they also become part of the public meeting record. At today's meeting, we're not taking verbal public comment. If you want to give verbal public comment to the Government Transition Advisory Committee, you can do so at its next meeting, which is March 13th, and you can sign up now online. If you want to give public comment before then or in any other way, you can do it by phone by calling 311, by emailing us at transition@portlandoregon.gov, or through our transition website. I'm now going to turn it over to Jane to review today's agenda.
Thank you, Julia, and welcome everyone. I think we're a bit thin in the ranks, but we're going to assume that everybody's going to come and join in as we go. Our first agenda item is the omniscient subcommittee business. We will get to that. Then we will talk a little about new public feedback about ranked choice voting. We'll get to listen to and work with Sophia on the website. We'll do some website review. We'll do ranked choice outreach and messaging. We'll talk about that from the perspective from now and through May. We'll talk and listen about subgrant outreach, followed by the use of the GTAC title. Then, before we go, we'll talk next steps. And next slide, please. So getting down to the committee business, we've not heard from a soul that anybody is not going to be absent. So hopefully everybody will be here. We're going to approve our last meeting summary, which took place on February the 13th, and we'll take another look at our working agreements. Thank you so much. Next slide, please. Our working agreements are...
I'm sorry, Jane, can we see if anyone has any corrections to the last meeting summary? And
excuse me, that's me. I didn't do this. Thank you so much. So we need to approve last meeting's meeting summary, which was on the 13th. Does anyone have any revisions to that document before we entertain a motion and a second? I'm not seeing any hands, or I'm just seeing head nods. So I would like to, for us to entertain a motion. Would somebody please do that for us? Thank you, Terry. I've got Terry waving. Okay, would somebody back up Terry with a second? I'm not hearing a peep. Is anyone wait? Oh, Bill, will you second?
Yes, your co-chair.
Thanks so very much. So Bill will second. Okay, so can we have a show of hands or a thumbs up for everyone who is in agreement that the fabulous meeting notes are good? All those in favor, raise your hands. I'm not seeing any thumbs down or any scowls or anything. That's so good. Okay. So, And thank you very much, Julia, for that. Okay, we will go to the next slide now, and we will talk about our working agreements. And our expectations of me and you are that when we discuss things, that we challenge the ideas rather than each other, and we offer really good suggestions. We approach people's opinions with curiosity rather than saying this is full of you know what, and we seek to understand. We keep the needs and the concerns of the local community and the larger region at the forefront of our work, because it's not all about us. We do arrive on time, and we come as prepared as our busy lives will allow. And we let the subcommittee folks know, and Julia and June, if you can't make a meeting. Bill and I, if you look a little harassed and if you start to throw things, we will find a way to breathe for you. We'll please keep multitasking to a minimum, although Leah once told me that she did crochet in her meetings because it helped her think. So if you've got thinking things, go ahead and do that. Keep focus on the objectives of the meetings. And if there are any things that are not on the agenda that come up and you would like us to talk about it, Bill and I will keep notes, and we will make sure that these things get addressed. If we could have the next slide, June, that'd be lovely. So carrying on with our working agreements, we will honor the decisions of the group. We won't stamp our feet and go into the next room. We'll contribute to the overall success of the group by finding ways to participate that best meets our needs. We'll step up and we'll step back, which means that we'll collectively to work that our voice is not the only voice, that everybody gets to say what they want and when they want to do it. And we will embrace conflict and work with our fellow committee members and staff to find ways to give each other constructive feedback. And we will help you, Bill and I, to the best of our ability to incorporate feedback tools. When we speak, we'll talk using I statements. We will not do the royal we. Okay, thank you. Next slide, please. Okay, well, this is new public feedback about ranked choice voting. Based on our work plan, a role of our subcommittee is to report feedback from the public about ranked choice voting. We've held a time on each of these meetings to share what we're hearing in the community about ranked choice voting, to help the city inform their voter education work. This could come from any engagement that you've given recently, so nothing from 6 months ago, and comments on the reports that you might have read. Please focus on any new stuff, okay? All right. Oh, look, Fred, as predicted, would be the first one up. We so welcome that first yellow hand. Go ahead, Fred.
The yellow hand strikes again. I just wanted to point out that James Eccles joined June and me at our last two presentations. One, there was probably 40, 45 seniors at the Hollywood Senior Center. And James did a great job, got peppered with questions. Again, the one that keeps coming up is, when can we get rid of this? And we pointed out, well, you got an initiative petition and some co-petitioners, or you want to wait till the next charter review in 9 years. But that came up. And then we had one at Friendly House with the Elder Pride Services. One person showed up. I hope that Leah, you and Laurie have a better attendance on the Sunday the 10th. But James did a great job. He was very attentive, this one guest, and curious, and is going to spread the word. So it was a success, although I would recommend not having city employees join us after hours, especially on Friday nights when it's snowing and it's cold and they have family to go home to. End of my review.
Thank you, Fred. I'm glad that that was a really good session, and I would echo, we don't want to be putting city employees who worked incredibly long hours out in the community if we can find out ways not to do that. I'm not seeing any more hands of people who've heard or listened to or seen new things. Might I raise my hand, and I'll take off my facilitating role and just be a regular Joe here. I was fortunate to go into a high school, into Roosevelt High School, and present to 6 classes, and did the ranked choice voting thing. And universally, they had no problem with it, probably because they've not done any singular voting in a government thing, but they were excited about it because they're pretty much used to ranking their choices in everything from their favorite hamburgers to whatever. So I think this might be an issue for people who have to relearn. We're not very fond of that. So thank you, over and out. Anybody else? Are you seeing anyone, Bill? I'm not seeing anyone.
No, I do not, Jane. So, Destiny.
Oh, is Destiny there? Great, Destiny, yay!
Thank you, Jane and Bill. I think just kind of echoing a lot of the youth presentations we've been given, they just take out their iPhones and their Androids and they're just scanning the QR code, voting, engaging their preferences, and just like talking about who wins and who voted for what. So I feel like it's definitely being well received. Not that many questions popping up on the logistics or the math, but really excited to see what people are collectively voting on. And so that's been good to see. And I think they're also really taken to the fact that there will be more voice and transparency. They seem to bright up and light up when they hear that when it comes to government. So really good presenting in that space.
Thank you, Destiny, for your positivity. Appreciate that. If we have no more yellow hands wanting to talk about what they've heard out in the community about ranked choice voting, I think we can just go to the next slide, please. I think, Bill, you're up.
Yeah, thank you. I think I am, and I think we accidentally went 2 slides ahead. I think the next slide is website review. There we are. In our previous meetings, we asked all of us to look at the website and give some feedback, with regard to how it looks and how it should flow. And let's take time today to give some feedback, but we're going to do it in connection with the city. And Sophia, I don't, is this appropriate to turn it over to you? I might be misremembering who will take us through the website so that we can see it, and then give some additional feedback.
Yeah, sure. I think we had discussed maybe having it more just open-ended to see if folks wanted to give general feedback, but I'm happy to walk folks through the website, however you all think we can use this time best.
If others don't agree, I'm going to suggest you take us through the website briefly, because that can remind us of comments we made or trigger additional comments. But maybe, Sophia, before that, I do see Zach's raised his hand. And then after that, Fred, I don't know if your hand is a legacy of your good contribution or whether you have a second one, which I can ask after Zach. So Zach, please.
Thanks, Bill. I just wanted to remark that I found a lot of the explanations in the FAQ. I know it's probably newer language. I found that they were improvements incorporated in how the change of government is the changes that are happening in the new government. And so I just encourage, I made some suggestions to Julia and June, but I think there's opportunity to maybe do an audit of other places in which that's described to replace that language with this new language that's in the FAQ. I do want to ask, I think there's either an opportunity to clean up the website or utilize some of its features. Like there are the specific tabs like events and documents and news that seem rife for opportunity to leverage, whether it's reminding people that the election day is November 5th or things of that nature. So I don't know if there were future plans to incorporate kind of more information into that space. Another one I thought of, like with the news, that would be a great place to plug the being on the transition newsletter, for example, if possible.
Yeah, thank you, Zach. And we're starting good discussion. So this is good. And James, please.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks, Zach, for that. Just as a clarification, yes, absolutely. There have been conversations about utilizing the news and the events. I love the idea of having the transition newsletter sort of appearing there every time it comes out as well, sort of cross. It is available through the sort of more information and resources section each time it pops up, but oftentimes people are going to go straight to that news. We will have sort of, this is, as a reminder, is kind of a soft launch of the website, and really it's after the May primaries when we're going to like go big and start advertising about it and making a big deal out of it. So this is where we want to get as much feedback as possible. So once we do that, we fully intend by that time to have an extensive events calendar on there of all the outreach events that we'll be doing, all of the, the candidate learning sessions, all of that stuff. So it will, as keep an eye on it, because it will kind of expand in those sections. And then just to the FAQ, that's a great point. We're continuing to update that as our partners sort of give us feedback in bettering that language. So it gets a little bit better each time we get more input from you all and from other partners. And I think we do need to make sure that we're then reapplying that to the other places where that language is used, so that we have the best, the most updated language. We're not describing it different ways. But thanks for that.
Yeah, just a response to the response. I think the main thing is being explicit about commissioners and then the change to now counselors. And I think that's going to always be a problem in our transition, right? But like the more we can just re-emphasize it and be articulate, then the better.
Destiny.
Thank you, Bill. On the contact us page, it says translate this page to English or Spanish. I would love to see that in all of the pages, because otherwise I'm like, you would have to go into settings. And I think Google now does it, that it's smart enough to be on the language that you've already set up. I think that feature, just for accessibility reasons, on all the pages is great. I also kind of agree with Zach. I don't love that each page goes to a separate web link and it has all this great information. I think you could utilize the homepage a lot better with showing the district map, showing the positions being open, or like even like those questions with the cute little photos, maybe pushing you down and moving you onto that homepage and like, click for more information type of thing. But if people get on the home link, I don't want them to have to open 6 tabs to find out information on this transition. Just my feedback, but thank you.
Well, that's made me ask you a question there. I might have said something a little different, so I just want to ask you, because I've read that individuals really don't like to do a lot of scrolling. So if you can't get it on one screen, have a link to another page. But what I just said sounds contrary to what you just recommended. So I'm real attentive to your feedback so I can make any comments I make consistent with yours. So.
And I agree. I hate scrolling. I've done like website the design with like developers, and there's one way. I don't know the coding, I don't know that, but like you can click the question and it moves you down to said section lower in the page and things like that. That way, like the landing page just has more information about, like Zach said, the date, the positions, the districts. Like I think it could have a little bit more, because right now it's a lot of pink and faces and just we're moving and questions. But like if I had no idea, this page wouldn't keep my attention.
Okay. No, that's a good point. And then if you click and you go down to something, there could be another link that says back to top. And the top can have an index so you can choose what you want. I'm just thinking out loud.
Yeah.
Good.
Thanks,
I don't want to interrupt, sorry, but I don't want to get us down a rabbit hole. We are unfortunately super limited with the website like structure, because we have to use the website template. I'll be honest, I kind of hate the little box structure too, and I wish if we could kind of move things around. But I do hear what you're saying about like the tabs, and I think there's a way where we can do almost like an accordion where folks can expand if you want more. So I'll take this feedback to the comms team on our team, the comms person on our team who's been helping us build it out, and see if we can incorporate it. But unfortunately, we are limited. Like I wish we could expand and have more stuff, but we are limited, unfortunately.
Okay, thanks for that feedback, Sophia. We'll work within the we'll work within the parameters that you have. Jane, please.
Yeah, I did send some comments, but the one thing I think we have to be cognizant of is that we're already 3/4 through this race. We have come to grasp everything about redistricting and councillors versus commissioners, but the rest of everybody is nowhere near there. And the most important thing I have discovered that people are wowed about is, oh my God, I get to vote for somebody who comes from my neighborhood within my area. So I do, it seemed to me that the whole website was very much on get out and vote, and this is how you do it, rather than, you know, why are we doing this and how are we doing this? So I think that we do have to keep talking about the map and where you vote and the 3 councillors rather than the 1 commissioner, and why we're sort of like doing that before we jump into the how do you vote. So, you know, I sent some possibilities of restructuring at least the titles of the landing blocks that Sophia's, you know, locked into. Anyway, just a thought, and thank you.
Well, thank you, Jane. Jose.
This is kind of along Destiny's point, and James, I do appreciate, and I know that everyone's slowly working to translate all the pages, but I will ask for one thing. On some of the pages, namely the link pages like Contact Us and a couple other ones I've seen already translated, the translate buttons are at the very top of the page, but on the main homepage, it's at the very, very bottom of the page. And some Spanish speakers will find that harder to find. So I know it doesn't look as pretty if it's right at the top, but it would be a lot more user-friendly that way.
Thank you, Jose. Sophia, do you have an additional comment? I just see your hand raised. I don't know if that's continued from your prior comment.
Yeah, sorry, it was an old hand, but I can respond to Jose's. I think if we can't move the translate languages at the bottom, we could probably put like a banner notice at the top that says to people like translate is at the bottom. So I'll work around that.
Yeah, it's already at the top in some pages, like the FAQ page, the contact us page and a couple other pages already at the top. So just do it the same way, I would think.
And Sophia, if individuals after this discussion look at the website and have additional comments, can they send them to Julia or and/or to you, i.e., are you facing a timeline within which you'd really like to have comments? Or
I mean, I think, yes, absolutely. Please send any other additional feedback to Julia, June, myself, James. We'll make sure it gets to the right person. And I think as James mentioned earlier, we are growing. This is the initial, right, launch of the website. So I assume this will be a ever revolving
Okay, yeah.
opportunity for edits.
A living document.
Basically, yeah. But no, as James mentioned, after the May election is really when we want to go full blast with the
Yes.
website. So a couple weeks before would be great.
Sounds good. Do we have any additional comments? Well, yeah, well, thank you for all these comments. These are real good. And I think that the website will be a prime way that individuals learn, about the comments. I am noticing that we do have several comments in chat, but I'm thinking Sophia and everyone, we can see those, but take those comments into consideration as well. Well, perhaps we go to the next slide now. And this will be on ranked choice voting outreach. And here for ranked choice voting outreach, Multnomah County is with us, and I think that's Scotty, James, and Leah, and would like to talk with us or share Multnomah County's, and correspondingly, the city wants to coordinate with Multnomah County, sort of best practices for reaching out to inform, explain ranked choice voting. So may I turn it over to the three of you?
Yeah, I'll take it from here, Bill. Yeah. Hello, everyone. Hi, friends. It's good to see all of you. My name is Leah Benson. I use she and they pronouns. I am here as a representative of Multnomah County elections today in my capacity as Ranked Choice Voting Project Manager. Just to be clear, I am a member of the full GTAC committee, but am not a member of the Voter Education and Candidate Outreach Subcommittee. So I'm here as a representative of the county and not GTAC. I'm here with my colleagues Scotty and Tim from the elections office to talk more about the voter education timeline that the city and county have jointly created and are using to guide our work in the community. Since GTAC is a valuable partner in voter education, we want to be sure that we're looping you in each step of the way to ensure that you're understanding the activities that we're doing now and when we're going to be beginning our full voter education push. We've tried to keep our presentation relatively short with the goal of having a good amount of time for questions and conversations with you all at the end of the presentation. So I just ask that you hold on to your questions until we are through with our very few slides, and then we're happy to talk about anything. And so with that, I'd like to pass things over to Scotty Sherrington, who's the Senior Program Specialist with our Voter Education and Outreach Program at Multnomah County Elections. So June, could you get us to the next slide, please? Thank you. Scotty, it's all you.
Thanks, Leah. Hi, everyone. Nice to see you all again. My name is Scotty Sherrington. I use they and them as my pronouns in the workplace. And as Leah mentioned, I'm the program specialist senior for our voter education outreach program, which what that means in bureaucrat speak is I do all the planning and coordination for our education program here. And I think as you all are aware, we've been working in close collaboration with the city since before the 2022 election to get ready for this, but more specifically in our voter education coalition, which we really formalized last July. And one of the first things we talked about when we formed that coalition is when are the points where we're going to start to educate our voters? Because it is our voters, right? Your 450,000 registered voters in the city of Portland are also our registered voters here as Multnomah County elections. So we kind of are in a new era of collaboration and working on this as closely together as we can, so that we make sure that all of that information that is coming out of both of our offices and all of this work is in coordination. So one of the first things we talked about was that timeline. What does this mean? When do we start talking with folks? As you all are aware, we had only 2 years between when this was voted in and approved by the voters until implementation. So that's a very truncated timeline. But what we realized of how we needed to prepare and the materials that we needed to get, we kind of looked at best practices in other ranked choice voting campaigns and also best practices in change management, and came up with this understanding that really we're informing folks right now. Up until the May primary election, we still have to focus most of our voters on the primary election, not just on the City of Portland's changes. And so we wanted to keep our communications line really clear and be informing folks on ranked choice voting. But then after the primary election, we switch over into this period of educating. And that will also allow us to have the time to create the materials that we needed to educate voters. It's a very, very gray area of the difference between these two, right? And what we specifically meant by educating is how are we showing the voters how to actually fill out their ranked choice voting ballot to make sure that they understand the City of Portland's code related to ranked choice voting. And that has to do with things like overvotes, skipped votes, right? So that voters fully understand how to fill out their ballot. And it was going to take us a while to get those materials together. So everything that you all are doing right now, we're kind of in the phase of informing. You know, it's so important for us to get out there into as many diverse communities as possible and let folks know that a change is coming. So one, that they're aware that they're going to need to learn something new. I've heard that today already, right? That we're going to have folks that are going to be able to have the opportunity to learn something new. And then we're going to have folks that are new voters, and this might be the first time that they vote. And so they're learning something new in a different context. They're learning voting in addition to a new type of voting. June, would you mind switching to the next slide, please? And so that's why it really kind of left us in this place where our ranked choice voting implementation and comprehensive voter education is, we're trying to do this in coordination. And that's why it took so much time for us to get to this point. Computer is doing something funky. There we go, caught up with me. So that's why it's so important right now that you all are informing voters. We know that some voters want to know everything right now, right? And we don't quite have the materials ready to get them there. But it's still so vital that we're getting out and telling people that a change is coming and that where they should look and when they should look. And that most of these materials will be ready right after the primary, and our full push is going to start in June. Leah, are we waiting till the end for questions, or should I take questions right now?
I'll leave it up to you. I think, why don't we wait till the end for questions, because we still got Tim to talk a little bit.
Sounds good. So at that, I will pass it over to Tim.
Scotty. Hi, everyone. My name is Tim Scott. I use he and him pronouns, and I am the Director of Elections for Multnomah County. Thank you for having us all here today. And my job here today is in this presentation is to just make sure you all understand how committed we are to this partnership with the City of Portland and to the voters of Multnomah County. As Scotty mentioned, implementing ranked choice voting in November 2024 is a top priority for Multnomah County elections. We've been working on this implementation since before the results for the November 2022 election were certified. We've been working closely with the city on drafting their code. We collaborated with Clackamas and Washington counties to put procedures in place for the first multi-jurisdictional RCV election in the state. And we're now working through all of the procedural updates that are needed for RCV. Multnomah County Elections is equally committed to working with the City of Portland to ensure that a comprehensive voter education campaign is delivered. We realize that this is arguably one of the biggest changes that voters have experienced in how they vote since we moved away from butterfly ballots with punch cards or to voting 100% by mail. The memorandum of understanding related to RCV education that was put in place last summer was an opportunity for the city and the county really to formalize our intention to collaborate on this important work. And Multnomah County Elections has had a strong commitment to voter education and outreach for many years. Our voter education program has been in place since 2015 and is central to ensuring that we are doing everything we can to reduce barriers to participation in elections and that voters are confident in their knowledge of how to vote. And elections are deadline driven, and we are experts at ensuring that no matter what, we hit those deadlines and voters have the resources they need to be successful with the voting process. The plan that Scotty just discussed is in alignment with election best practices, and you all are a critical piece of that education strategy as you meet with the community members and provide clear and helpful information that builds voter confidence. Thank you so much for the work that you are doing to support this education effort. We couldn't do it without you. And now I'll pass things back to Leah.
Thanks, Tim. I will take it. Before opening it up to everyone for questions, I want to acknowledge something quickly, which is just that I have been one of the people on GTAC giving these presentations and hearing people's questions about RCV. And so I think when I was introduced to the timeline of realizing that we're waiting to do a full educational push until after the primaries, I felt a little bit confused, realizing people want information. So I get that. One thing I'll say, though, is being here, it's incredibly clear that Portland is not being unique in any of this. It is very standard for voter education, specifically RCV voter education, to not be starting this until sometimes even 2 months before the election. That's for best practice in terms of making sure that people are getting a message that's going to be consistent and that they're getting delivered information at a time that they're going to be able to use it immediately to vote. So helping them vote for the election that's immediately in front of them. So I just want to say that to say, I've gone through a little bit of a shift over here for it. So I was excited today to get in front of all of you and talk a little bit more detailed about the plan, about why we have been in this informed stage and are waiting to move on to educate. And so with that, I want to hand it back to the co-chairs to facilitate any questions people have.
Okay, certainly. Well Leah and Scotty and Tim, thank you very much. And also thank you, James, for the correction. In case you didn't see chat, I included James as a county employee, and James correctly pointed out he's with the city. I didn't refer to Tim. So Tim, you're welcome. Thank you for everyone for being here. So for raised hands, Zach, please welcome your additional good observations.
Thanks, Bill. And thank you to the county for the presentation. My question is just thinking about the communications strategy. I know that the city is a partner with the county in getting information out about ranked choice voting, and I'm curious about our Portland residents who live in our 2 other counties, and if there is, in addition to the intergovernmental agreement for the actual functional counting, if there's some sort of partnership with those counties that is independent of what the city is putting forward in getting voter education out to those households.
James looks like he might want to answer that, but I can just say from our perspective, in the conversations I've had with elections folks in Washington and Clackamas counties, is that we would share any product that is created that they might want to use in their education of their small portion of voters. And I'll let James speak to the kind of the agreements that they have in place as far as sharing specific artifacts of that education. But it's our intent that once the material is available, it will be available for all the counties.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. That's absolutely the same for us. The same is true. All of the material we've made available. We also have we've met both with Washington County and Clackamas County, with their elections manager and with their election director over in Washington County, and one went through just kind of like what we've done with you all, a brief of the whole plan and what we're going to do, and give them some heads up. And we also want to make sure that they are involved as much as they want to be. Their voters are theirs and they're ours, but we want them to feel like they've got some ownership of that. So we're continuing to have conversations. We're talking about, you all received a sort of train the trainer. We're talking about doing a similar thing for the election officials in those counties so that they can, see everything that we're doing. And then all the material we make will be available to them as well. It's not a lot of voters, but we want to make sure that they have the exact same opportunity of any voter that's in these other counties. So so basically, yes, absolutely. We have had conversations directly and individually with them, and they will also be wrapped into the larger plan.
Thank you, Tim and James. Amy, look forward to your observations.
Thank you. Zach actually just started to hit on my question in the comments there. A couple meetings back, we were looking at the overall budget that the city of Portland has for voter education. And I remember thinking, oh, I wonder if we have properly funded for that, like broad voter education, the direct mailers. And one of the responses to that was that the county has a separate budget. So I would love to hear about if the county has specific budget for those broad mailers, and kind of just how the city and counties mass media, or kind of those direct mail pieces, how those two budgets sync up with one another.
Hi, Amy. Thanks for the question. So the big caveat is we're in budget season right now. So we, like the city, have put forward proposals for next fiscal year that, at least in our budget, and I think in the cities as well, really try to get the resources we need to provide that broad voter education. I won't go into all the details of our budget proposal, but I have put a line item in our budget proposal for broad media purchases. So, we're working with the chair's office and with the commissioners to make sure that they understand that that's a really important piece of going into the presidential election, as well as going into a presidential election with ranked choice voting. So, with our fiscal year 24 money, we have taken the funds that were appropriated to us and focused them on creating some videos that will be evergreen and help educate voters about how to vote a ranked choice voting ballot. Scotty and Leah are working on that with our contracting team and with the vendor that we selected, who we are really excited about. So we're really looking forward to seeing those videos be completed at the end of June, or hopefully before, so they can be used in our media strategy.
Thank you, Tim. Sophia, you have an additional observation.
Yes, I think I just wanted to respond to Amy's and Zach's question about the mailer in the chat. So additionally, the city is paying and budgeted for the citywide mailer. So every Portland residential home will get a mailer, including folks in the voters in Washington County and Clackamas County. So we're going to be working with printing and development at the city to ensure that we have the accurate mailing list so that they also get it. So it won't be just Multnomah County.
Thank you, Sophia. Jane, we see your raised hand, so please.
Thank you, Bill. I just want to echo Leah's comments about giving people information when they're ready for it and when they need it. It's called heuristics. And when I was fortunate enough to work at the port, I was responsible for giving people information about their airport flight and how to get from the airport back to their car. And you don't start to talk to people about boarding when they're in the parking garage or in the parking lot. You sort of like, you have to meter out the information when people are ready to receive it. A good example would be Julia sends us a bunch of information about this meeting a week out. And chances are most of us don't look at it until the day before the meeting or the day of the meeting. Because heuristically we're dealing with other things and we're sort of like sorting that out. So so again, to Leah and the county's point, as much as we think that people want information about how to vote in a ranked choice method right now, probably won't hit until much later. So kudos to the county for sticking to the guns on that and encouraging us to give very general and lovely information. You can go find more if you want to. Thank you so much, Leah and the county.
Thank you, Jane. If I see no other hands, allow me to, well, I could I'll raise my hand. An observation, sort of a question too. On the slide that distinguished information and education, under education, it started out print, written materials, videos, etc. It struck me, what about giving or participating in talk shows or joining a radio program to give a presentation, or even a program on TV as part of a news segment. If the producers of radio or TV were interested. I didn't see that type of presentation in the second bullet under educate about printing written materials.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. That's a good question. And I would actually put that under inform. Generally, those spaces, you can't educate in those spaces, but you can push to education materials, right? And again, this slide was not meant to be an extensive list, so I'm sure there's lots of other scenarios that can kind of fall into that. But in educational spaces, you want to be able to be in front of the person that you're educating. So when you're, if you were to educate on a news broadcast, there's no back and forth there, so it's much more informing. I think the basis of education is that interaction of information, right? And making sure that the person that you're working with or the group that you're working with has the ability to ask questions, to ask back and forth. And so that's why we kind of center more on that. But yeah, I think you're pointing out some of the differences, and there's definitely some spaces where you can do both in, right? And there's some spaces where it's just much more effective to educate in. So we say things more like workshops, presentations, things like that, where you're really right in front of voters, or you're providing them materials for them to consume on their own, but then there's a way for them to follow up and get more information. And there's some type of a linkage there, right? Whether that's they call into us and we have our phone bank up and ready and educating folks one-on-one after they've consumed some of these materials, or some avenue like that. But when you're just kind of going out and saying, hey, this thing is happening, but there's no opportunity to engage in that channel, I'd say it would fall more under inform and educate.
Scotty, thank you for that distinction. I'm just thinking that that type of media, radio, TV, reaches a heck of a lot of individuals, and so yeah,
it's a great outreach tool. Absolutely, it's a great outreach tool to get your message out there and point folks to the place where they can get educated. But it's not, like I would say, a primary education tool. So I think it's definitely part of it, right? And all of this is part of it, but there's just some subtle differences between your approaches and what you're able to accomplish with voters in those spaces.
Including it in inform is just fine with me.
So, great question.
Great, thank you. Do we have any other observations? Yeah, I think Leah.
Thank you. Yeah, there was a question in the Q&A that I just wanted to answer live quickly. And the question is, who is producing the videos and will there be opportunities for review by GTAC? In terms of who is producing, we're still finalizing the contract. So while I can't share the name of the firm yet, we will in the future. And GTAC is not a member of review for the county's videos for voter education. We will be sure to show you them when they're done, but we don't have you as a part of our review cycle, though we love you all.
Thank you, Leah. And actually, thank you for supporting GTAC and also the county and city. So good. Thank you. Well, this is good discussion and good feedback, and I'm thinking it's also ongoing. So if we have additional comments, we will endeavor to provide them. Well, perhaps we go to the next slide. And the next slide, is sub-grant outreach. And Sophia, we look forward to you sharing with us the plans to outreach for voter education subgrants.
Thank you, Bill. If we can go to the next slide. Thanks. Okay. So at the last meeting, we discussed that you all wanted to learn a little bit more about the outreach process for the subgrants as part of the voter education contract. So on the screen, you can see a few display images of some social media toolkits. But for our overarching plans for essentially spreading the word about these grants is going to be working closely with our partners, our full transition team, the elections office in Multnomah County to really help spread the word with our partners. But these things that you see on the website are specifically outreach kind of strategies that the city will be doing. So as soon as we open recruitment, I just saw there, the applications will open sometime this afternoon and they will close on April 30th. So it'll be about 2 months for us to really spread the word and to get applications. So we'll be releasing a press release from the transition team. So that will be shared with all media outlets and posted on the city website. We'll be doing a transition e-newsletter that will come out at the end of this week or Monday. So either Friday or Monday. So be on the lookout for that. On the website that you all saw, there'll be a brand new kind of section, pink box, that talks everything about this voter education contract, has the application, activities that are allowed, requirements, the evaluation criteria, and then a link to apply. Additionally, we'll have social media content. So you see some of the images on the screen. And then we'll have a social media toolkit. So the toolkit will have the social media graphics translated as well, newsletter content, social media posts, and then just general information about how to use the toolkit. That is a toolkit that we hope to share with you all so that you can help us in your outreach, sharing this information. As well, we plan to share it with our different city partners and city county partners. We'll share that toolkit with, for example, our partners at Civic Life, and they have a newsletter and have different social media platforms that they can share that information, specifically to reach our neighborhood association and business organizations. We'll be also sharing all of this information with our council offices so that we can tap into their platforms. And then, of course, we'll start doing targeted email outreach to community-based organizations and community groups. This is where we really need your help. We're starting to build an Excel sheet, essentially, with all the organizations that we can do targeted outreach, where we can do a more personalized message sharing this information instead, so they don't just disregard the maybe large blast email that they might get. So really, we'll need your help in slowly building this spreadsheet with all of the organizations that you want us to do outreach to, or that you are planning intentionally to do outreach to, so that we can be collecting all of our kind of collective outreach efforts. And I think we'll now pass it back to Bill and Jane to kind of help answer questions.
Okay, thank you, Sophia. Yes, and I was going to ask if any of us have questions. And Fred, please, I see your raised hand.
Hey, thank you, Bill. And thank you, Sophia. Looking at the screen and your presentation, these are the sub-grants that are distributed through United Way. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. And so, but all the references are to Portland.gov vote grants. And so is there anything there to say that the grants are targeted for hard to reach voters or voters whose voices have not historically been heard?
Yes, so for clarity, we are hosting the grant. So all the grant information will be hosted on the city's website.
Okay.
So all the information that you're mentioning, right? Like the requirements for the program, the grants, the specifications, et cetera. And then additionally, separately, the applications will all come to, essentially it's a survey monkey that folks have to fill out with all of the questions and their information. And that will be the city's information, the city's survey monkey. So we'll receive all the applications and then work with our partners to help us go through that process.
Okay. I'm just trying to figure out the flow of the money and the process for a community-based organization to get a grant and for what purpose, you know. That's great. And when would they, so they would go out sometime, grants, apply by April 30th, and we'll talk, I'm sure, down the road about process to figure out how.
Yeah, so so the application does automatically closes at 11:59 on the April 30th. And then from there, we'll start exactly the evaluation process that is outlined on the website. The detailed process we'll go through, but the intentions is that we begin that right away in the beginning of May. And then by mid-May, we at least have the organization selected so that really ideally by June 1st, they can start with the legal agreements and then kind of go on.
Great, thanks.
Thank you, Fred. We have and Terry, look forward to see your raised hand. So I turn the mic over to you.
I just quick follow-up on some of Fred's questions. Is there a separate grant package or request for proposal or something that can be distributed or is going to be distributed? Like if I have a community organization who's interested, can I send them a package of stuff? Or
you mean like a PDF, kind of like an actual document?
Yeah, I guess. You know, and the legal agreements that they'll have to sign, you know, would they want to look at that first, for example?
Yeah, that's a good question. We weren't planning on having like a PDF. Well, we do have on our website like a whole accessibility section. So if folks, you know, can't fill the application online, we'll work with folks to ensure that they can, you know, do it via email or print, or we can send them. But I think we could easily package all of the information into actual PDF document, like you're saying, Terry. And then also just direct folks to the website because that's where all the information would be.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not that much work really to do that. It's already on the website, so.
Yeah, it just seems like it'd be useful to take to their organization boards and stuff and, you know, talk about. So,
yeah.
All right, thanks. That's it.
Thank you, Terry. Sophia, if I can offer a comment, I appreciate, you're seeking help or feedback, from GTAC and our subcommittee. I'm thinking it'd be helpful if you have particular questions, if you can send them to us or either directly or through Julia. Then we have those questions. We got a shall we say a written record or a written request, and then we can I think we can better respond. I mean, I heard your interest verbally, but I'm thinking time will go by, we'll get busy doing other things. But if we have those, we can be sure and make that some of our homework before our next meeting.
Yeah, thank you, Bill. I think for us, we really want your help in understanding the types of organizations that we should be doing targeted outreach via email or phone calls, right? Where we can, grab a phone and call someone at those organizations to share more information about the program. I'd love to work with June and folks, right, and understand. I know you all have been doing a lot of briefings on transition, right? Like ensuring that we have those right contact person to go back in them, or if kind of understanding how you all want to work around that.
Okay, I'm initially thinking that we do have a list of past and upcoming outreach meetings that we've had, about the upcoming election. So that might be helpful. I think I'm asking, yeah, and we can add to that as we get additional requests. I hope that's helpful or potentially helpful. Good. Thank you, Sophia. We have no further comments. Let's go to the next slide. Hey, here, what I'd like to do is get a sense of the committee and essentially ask the question, should GTAC members use their GTAC titles in endorsements and expression of support for candidates and ballot measures? And what I'm thinking is, if the sense of our subcommittee is yes, we can ask, Maya Hayam, who gave the presentation on use of or use of GTAC title, or she gave the presentation on political activities. I'm thinking we can ask her if she has examples that other committees have had that have contain such a restriction in their bylaws or in the motion, and if that's something we want to pursue, we could consider such a motion. I'm asking this because although a conflict prevented me from joining the the actual presentation, I listened to it and heard your good and incisive questions about when one could use, if one wanted, or one's GTAC title in connection with endorsements or expressions of support. But then Maya said her personal view was that she emphasized the importance of public trust in government and government committees. So she would not allow her a representation of her endorsement or support for a candidate to include reference to her position with GTAC. So, query, what do we think about that? So I really welcome, seek a sense of the committee as to whether we want to allow inclusion of GTAC titles in any endorsements or expressions of support we make, or go further and favor limiting such use. Fred, please.
Thank you. I initially thought that one should not use one's title in an endorsement, especially since there are multiple candidates in each of the 4 districts, and we have some candidate education processes ourselves. It might suggest to the opponents of candidates we endorse that somehow there's a preference at GTAC itself for that they endorse candidate versus the opponents, and to me that goes to GTAC's trust account with all candidates, besides ones that are specifically endorsed. But now, since Maya's discussion, I've let another candidate actually refer to my title as a member of GTAC. I don't think that most voters know what GTAC is, and I can certainly have that retracted. I would think my preference would be that we don't use our title in endorsements because it's so integrally tied to the election itself, our activities, especially in voter education and candidate education. I don't think that any GTAC members who are candidates should be using their titles, especially in the districts in which they're running. I mean, they can certainly do community outreach elsewhere, but I'm not comfortable with them doing community outreach as GTAC members in the district in which they're running. I don't know if we have any other than David, and I haven't know, is David still on the committee? He hasn't been in attendance, I don't think. Those are my views.
Okay, thank you for your observations, Fred. And really earnestly welcome. Yes, other comments, please, Jose.
I think it's important for GTAC members and members of any committee that also choose to run for office to share that. I feel like Fred's concerns are Fred's. I don't agree with them at all, not even a little. I think these are the kind of committees that exactly are made to encourage people to run. So we're trying to foster that in people. Like my hope would be like more of you guys would run, but then no one could do the outreach. So what is it? Do we not let people run right from these committees, or we should put these considerations before they ever join the committee? I know I considered running at one point. I ultimately chose not to do so, but when I joined the committee, I hadn't even thought about doing it. It's being on the committee that made me think about it and really consider it because of everything we were learning. And I do think that, like I said, these committees are made to encourage the kind of civic engagement that will get regular people more involved that then want to run for office. So I don't think we need to start putting barriers for them to be involved in our community.
Jose, allow me to be sure I'm following. I wouldn't look at a limitation on use of the GTAC title as prohibiting a GTAC member from running
Right.
for office.
Right.
It's that if you are running or expressing support for a particular candidate, then if a GTAC member is running for office or expressing support for a candidate, the GTAC member should not say, "I'm a member of GTAC and I'm running for office." It's not preventing. It's not preventing running for office. It's just
no, but you're still putting limitations. You're saying this one piece of great experience that you have that will make you great for running for office, you shouldn't tell anyone.
Okay.
So it's still a limitation. It's not allowing them to run for office, but it's saying this great background you have, you can no longer share it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you, Jose. I follow there. Juanita, please. Juanita, you are on mute.
Course.
Oh.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I would like to recommend that we do follow the instructions we received by the city attorney. I think that, I just am afraid that if we start questioning what, besides the direction that they gave us, we're going to end up with all kinds of confusion and, and all kinds of different understandings. Julia, I don't know if that is possible that the city's attorney's office can give us in writing some of the things that they discuss with us during their presentation. So we can have that. And then if we have questions, we can always reach to you or to the city attorney's office for clarification. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Juanita. Destiny, please.
Thanks, Bill. I think if there's a candidate who has a GTAC title or whatever, it's fine by me if they use it in their materials because it's part of their experience, it's part of their service. I would hate to say that you can't use that when you're actively in community. As a GTAC member, though, I don't think it would be great to use our titles as endorsements. I think that we're here in a community sense, rather than an individual candidate sense. And I think that outside things could then come into the GTAC committee that shouldn't be.
Thank you, Destiny. Terry.
Yeah, I think I talked about this at that training that we had. We don't really always have control over our GTAC title. It's like a line on our resume. It's a fact of life about our existence, and people can use that to identify us however they choose. To the extent that I want to participate in a campaign or endorse a candidate, I think I have that right to do that. I don't have to identify myself, but I might be identified by others that I can't control. So there's not much we can do about that situation. And I don't know that we need to internally legislate it because we'll get tied up into those problems. I do think it's probably a personal choice whether you want to use it or not. But you're using it as a line on your resume. You're not allowed to use it as a part of my official GTAC participation. I endorse somebody or something. So that distinction is a legal one, and that's the one that we got advice on, and that's the one we should probably just stick to. The worry that I would have, this is sort of a separate thought, is that if you're a candidate or even in a campaign that has positions about in-district offices, for example, if you're a candidate, you're on GTAC, you may be a beneficiary of in-district offices. Those sorts of decisions put you in a weird conflict of interest sort of situation that maybe you should sit out and recuse yourself from that discussion and those issues. But that's a separate issue than I think what you're talking about. And then finally, I just say, I'm not sure that we in this subcommittee can really decide this. This is sort of a full GTAC sort of decision. And maybe we should just thinking about it for a while. That's all.
Thank you, Terry. I mean, it's good that we're thinking about this. And Zach, observations, please.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to add anything more to the conversation than has already been discussed, but I just wanted to share where I sit currently on this conversation for the record. So, I understand Fred's concerns. I understand Jose's very real considerations, and I like the comments that Destiny and Terry shared related to kind of like the nuance of it. And so my feeling is if you're a candidate, of course you should feel willing and able to indicate that you have been a member or are a member of GTAC and share that as part of your resume. I think it's imperative that we kind of have a general honor code that we're calling that both the candidate and its endorsement is simply a member of GTAC and not GTAC. And so I think that's important designation that, again, I don't think we legislate, right? But I think we also should acknowledge the fact that there were no stipulations set out at the onset for our committee membership that preclude us from endorsing or from running for office, as was the case with the Charter Commission. And so I don't think we should voluntarily prohibit and exclude people from being able to participate in the political process. And so I think it's ultimately nuanced, and I think people will decide one way or the other about it, and that's fine. Like if I were to endorse, I would have long considerations of whether I would want to attach member of GTAC on that. But I do think that we should give some flexibility to people to indicate that with the request that, as we have with any public meeting or representation in council, that they represent themselves strictly as a member and not reflecting of the entire committee.
Thank you, Zach. Destiny, welcome your additional observations.
Thank you, Bill. Just kind of a reflection. I think when we talk about what ulterior, like to Terry's point of like ulterior ulterior motives that a potential candidate could have with district offices and things that they might have an interest or a stake in that. I think the very same thing could be said about us as GTAC members having direct contact with candidates who could potentially have a position of power, and it is nuanced. So I just think that we should have some sense of self-reflection of like, does this provide me ulterior motives, or just a moment of self-reflection, because political things can be really hard for people to take part of because of lack of knowledge or lack of history or lack of boldness even, and to others who have history, knowledge, and wisdom and experience, I think, or even direct connection. So even if we have an honor system, and I think, you know, what Zach was saying is clear, like we didn't have any of this, and I appreciate that, but I think just acknowledging that, to be honest and to be self-reflective, is also important. So I'm just acknowledging that in this space as well.
Thank you, Destiny. Jose, we welcome your additional insights as well.
Just a quick comment about endorsements. I do agree with what Anita and Terry said about just following what the attorney's office has said, but I will say that with endorsements, there are many, many commissions across the city, and some of them have different weight than others. And you see it all the time where blah, blah, blah endorsed a candidate from this commission or that commission. So other commissions are doing it. I see it in water races because I'm involved in politics all the time. In the smaller races, particularly, they ask for endorsements from people that sit on the citizen commissions. So it'd be very hard for us to have like everyone has said, it'd be confusing for us to have a whole different set of rules than every other commission in the city.
Thank you, Jose. Fred, please.
Yes, I'm perfectly comfortable with what the city attorney has suggested to us, but I want to go back to make sure that we all understand that if I were a candidate for city council or mayor or auditor, that and I was on GTAC, that I not express my candidacy when I'm making a public presentation or serving actively as a member, say in community outreach or in meetings. That's per the city attorney's advice. That would be an elections law violation.
Thank you, Fred, for the synopsis. So I'm not hearing, you know, a sense of the committee to, you know, consider developing a motion, but it's real good that we're talking about it. And I'm anticipating, because I did ask that Maya Hyams may send to me via Julia examples of parameters that other committees have. And if she does do that, I'll share it. And if anyone wants to pick up on it, we can further consider the subject in a subsequent meeting. But this is a good discussion, so we're aware of it, an appropriate subject for us in our subcommittee to discuss. So thank you. It's good to share. So I think now we can move to the next slide, which is next step. And Jane, we've left time, so you don't need to feel rushed. I'm trying to make a joke here where you have more than 6 seconds to sing.
Well, thank you, Bill, and thank you for that lovely facilitation. I appreciate it. So next steps. Right now, this meeting is on YouTube, and it will be also posted to our website after the meeting is over. Our next full committee meeting is next week on March the 13th. So we look forward to seeing everybody back then. We have a districts and council operations subcommittee scheduled for March the 28th. And our committee will be back sometime very soon. I think we've got like between April the 2nd and the 5th. We're sort of working out that, and we will hear from Julia when that date will be. So we'll see this team back then. Thank you so much. Next slide, please. Okay, this is the so long farewell slide. Everybody's getting a bit antsy, including the cats that are in our community. I've seen 3, I think, wander around like, okay, time for you to move. So I want to thank everybody for showing up. Everyone is really busy. I appreciate the very thoughtful discussion that we've had today, and the generosity of your personalities and kindness towards each other. It is so very welcome. So thank you for coming. And again, we're adjourned.
Thank you. Bye-bye.